Hello everyone, this is Huafang Li again. In this short video, we are going to talk about communication issues within public and nonprofit organizations. So I'm going to talk about three topics about communication. So what is it? And why is communication important? And how to communicate exactly? So what is communication? Herbert Simon defines communication as a process in which information or decision premises transmitted from one to another. So that has three different directions. One's upward from lower level or from the front line. Then information transmit to a decision center. It could be the leader of the organization or a specific committee, etc. Right? But that makes the decision for the organization. And it could be downward, then from the decision center to be transmitted to other parts of the organization, especially when the decision needs to be implemented. And the lateral throughout the organization between different units and between different people, right? So the importance, Herbert Simon summarized it quite well, is that no communication, no organization. If we build our approach on information communication, then all the organizations are actually for communication, right? That's the purpose for them to be built up. So the reason for this is we understand that no single individual can possess all relevant information. Right? That's why we need an organization to coordinate, to organize individuals into groups collectively and formalize it as an organization. So organization, in this sense, is really coordinating or communicating with different individuals. So in a sense, organizations are set up the communication process, right? As we talked about, like three different directions: upward, downward, laterally. But then also two different categories of communication. So one's formal communication. Now it could be oral, but it is formalized, like a routine report from subordinates to supervisors, even through oral reporting, right? But that can be very formal, so that will be categorized as formal communication. So for formal communication, usually either verbatimly or through memo and letters, paper flow, records and reports and manuals, they can be written down to form the organization memory so the newcomers can actually follow, right? But also we realize the importance about the informal communication, including when people have coffee, chatter with each other, and even gossips, right? So these are the informal communication channels that will actually have two different effects, right? One is, of course, they somehow can facilitate the transmission of information flow through informal channels. While on the other hand, it can definitely hinder the formal process of the communication, because when people talking informally, they may talk the things that not in the positive direction for the organization. So that will actually create a negative impact on organizational performance. Okay, so how exactly an organization can set up the communication functions? Of course, you need people, right? Staff aides. And you also need facilities or repositories of organizational memory, like the manuals, like orientation, brochures, etc. And some larger organizations, they also have the investigatory units or intelligence collecting units to facilitate the organizational decision making. So this is quite common. Some small organizations, they also have such units, but the units may be down to like one or two people, right? So, but but collecting information and to transmit to the decision center and facilitate the decision making. This is the critical function for organization if we see it through the information communication base. All right, so no communication, no organization. Then you may say, okay, so how can we actually facilitate the information transmit flow, information communication, and then help make good decisions or better decisions? One of the things Herbert Simon mentioned is training, right? Because some of the information, even they are written down and embedded in the organizational memory, you still can't learn without practice, right? We say those know-hows, how can they be best transmitted from one to another? Herbert Simon said, okay, training might be one of the options, because we know through training, like a mentor and a mentee, or a master and apprentices, so they communicate, but they communicate when they are in service, right? So the subordinates, the employees, the frontline workers, they can actually learn from the service experiences, right? So we talked about experiential philanthropy. We also talked about training and development. So the core idea behind all this is they learn better from experiencing it, because there's some knowledge, we call them tacit knowledge, that cannot be learned from written materials or oral communication, right? Until you get into the service, and then something that you learned from your personal experience. So let me give you an example. You can watch many tons of videos teach you how to swimming. You can read books, you can listen to the lectures, etc., right? But how you actually learn swimming is you get to the water, get to the pool, right? So that experience can't be exactly like teach through verbal communication or through written documents. Right? So this is how we say why experiencing learning is so important. So training is tied to this, because you can set up in-service training, right? So then the newcomers to the organization learn better. Okay, so how exactly can communication facilitate decision making, even at the highest level, like the president? Right? So one of the things we talked about, the relationship between communication and decision making, is for the communication we need to understand the communication actually can help people to understand who and where in the organization are the decision makers. Okay, so it also the communication process determines the nature of the data to be presented to the decision maker. Right? Not all the data are relevant, or even they are relevant, somehow they need to be transformed into either aggregate form or executive memory, etc., for the decision makers to make decisions. And then it also determines the support of decision and secure its implementation. Right? When we talked about information is important, but you don't have the organizational setting and the units to actually help facilitate the communication process, then it will hinder making effective decisions. And we also understand that information channels matter, right? And the communication patterns, like the frequency, like how frequently a subordinate should report to a supervisor, and in what kind of format, right? Is it oral, written, etc., right? And some of the modern technology also is the burden of reporting, but it also somehow in a way increases the evaluation burden or administrative burden, because now it's easier for you to do, then you kind of want to do it every day, right? Like logging, etc. But this is because the communication patterns also matters for the decision making. Okay, and finally, the information communication technology. Like we in the 80s, we talk about the advantages or disadvantages of computers. So the principle behind this is no different than today's advanced technology like AI, right? So how computers influence decision makers is the principle behind all these very similar to today's, like how AI influences decision makers. Then certainly advantages like it's instant, convenient, affluent, and maybe the information cost. Once it's produced, it's very easy to transmit it at a low cost, like copy and paste, for instance, right? And the computer inputs, model building, and the program, and like the large language models, obviously also ease the decision making burden or kind of streamline the process, right? So that's definitely some benefits associated to the development of computers and algorithms, but then also disadvantages associated with that, right? So the technocrats, they will understand the know-hows. All right, so it could be possible they are going to dominate the decision-making process because they know the details, and we only see it like a black box as ordinary people. Right? And then many other issues related to the development of information technology. For instance, unlike old days, information are scarce. Now, information, too much information, right? Information overload, so beyond your process capacity, and then you have false and misinformation, and someone provide you alternative truths, right? So that confuses the decision-making data that you wanna rely on. And also then the issue related to garbage in, garbage out problem. AI discriminates. Some AI discriminates more, right? If the input, the training data is biased, then the outcome will be biased as well. Right? So this is also related to the ethical and moral considerations about advanced technology. Right? So all these things are related to decision making. So finally, let me summarize this. So technology will not and should not be to determine decision making when it conflicts substantially with human concerns, right? And the executives must retain the power and the will to make final decisions and the responsibility for the ultimate outcome. So essentially what we are saying right now is, yes, information technology is useful. It can help or facilitate our decision making, but a human should have the final say, especially the leaders of the organization should have the final say, and they bear the consequences and responsible for their decision. Okay, that will be all for this short video. Thank you very much.